Video game addiction can be caused by a combination of psychological, social, and biological factors. Here are some key contributors. The first is going to be escapism. Many people use video games to escape from the real world stressors like work, school, or relationship issues, relationships with their husband, their wife, their children, their parents. A lot of times, these issues that they face on a day-to-day basis gives them a feeling where they want to get away or escape, and so they turn to video games. The second thing is going to be dopamine releases. Playing video games and even buying video games can trigger a release of dopamine. This is a neurotransmitter linked to the pleasure and reward centers of the brain, which can reinforce the behavior, which is why every time you go game hunting and you find that rare gem or that hidden gem, you can't wait to get home so you can go to bed and get up the next day and do some more game hunting. It's also why eBay for many has become a black hole, because once you buy that one game off of eBay and get that dopamine hit, you want to keep buying and keep buying and keep buying. The third contributor is social interaction. Online gaming and even co-op couch gaming. It provides a social outlet where players can connect with others, which can be appealing, especially for those who feel isolated. And a lot of times that's what we're seeing today. Ever since 2020, people have been more isolated than ever before. And just because you're in a house with a bunch of people, it doesn't mean that you don't feel mentally and spiritually and emotionally isolated. And what video games does, it allows you to escape that isolation and rejoin a community of fellow gamers. Another contributing factor is challenge and achievement. Now, many games offer a sense of progression and achievement, keeping players engaged and encouraging them to keep playing to reach new milestones. But it's not just that. Even game hunting can become a challenge and achievement mechanism. And we've seen this happen since 2020 with all of the different $10 game collection challenges and how I built a video game collection from $0 to $10,000. There have been so many of these ideas that have been spread all across YouTube and across the internet that it's created this challenge and achievement kind of mousetrap for a lot of folks that causes them to get caught up in the whole cycle of buying and playing video games. The fifth contributor is compulsion. The desire to win or improve can lead to compulsive gameplay where individuals feel they need to play more to succeed. And the same goes when it comes to buying and collecting video games. A lot of times, if you're in an echo chamber with other video game collectors or video game enthusiasts, and you go and you see all the new games that they've picked up, all the new games that they've collected, you kind of can get this compulsory feeling to where you need to now go one up them by buying even more games and buying more rare games. If they got Pokemon Red, you have to get Pokemon Blue. If they've got Violet, then you've got to get Scarlet. It never ends. And this is where the compulsion gets in. The sixth contributor is accessibility. With mobile devices and consoles, games are more accessible than ever before, making it easy for people to play and extend the time that they spend playing video games. But it's not just with the game playing. It's also with the purchasing of video games, right? So we see where things like GameEye, which is an app that I actually use. I really enjoy GameEye. But when you get an app like GameEye combined with eBay, Mercari, OfferUp, it's so easy to buy video games with the click of a button from your phone that it just makes it too easy for people to get lost in the never-ending cycle of picking up video games. And this can also be related to gambling, which is another topic for another day. But there used to be a time where you could only gamble by going to certain locations or meeting with certain individuals and actually placing a bet. But thanks to things like FanDuel and DraftKings, now people are literally gambling their children's future away on parlays and other stupid bets online. And the accessibility has just made it easier for people to just waste time and waste money. The sixth contributing factor is community and culture. The gaming culture often glorifies long play and normalizes large amounts of time spent either playing video games, hunting for video games, or buying video games. And this is another downward spiral that we see where a lot of individuals who get caught up in this gaming culture, they lose touch, they lose balance with regular life. They're no longer investing the right amount of time into their family. They're no longer investing the right amount of time into their friends. They're no longer investing, any amount of time into other hobbies and developing and building themselves. And their whole world has been consumed by video games. It becomes this echo chamber that I've mentioned before. The last contributing factor is mental health. There are individuals with underlying mental health issues that may turn to gaming as a coping mechanism. Now, this is huge. This is a very, very big thing. And this is another huge contributor to video game addiction, is when you have underlying mental health issues. Now, I'm not a professional. I'm not qualified to diagnose any mental health issues. But if you are someone and you're a bit predisposed to some type of mental health issue, a lot of times, video games becomes that escape. Now, there's something that I've seen, and I've seen it a lot, more often than I like. And it's something that I'm sure if you're someone who's gone game hunting enough, if you've spent enough time at game stores or conventions, you will know this to be true as well. I've seen many times where, whether it be at a game store or at a game convention, there will be men, grown men, who well into their 30s, some even in their 40s. And you can tell that there is a mental disorder there. It's clear, because some mental disorders are more clear and defined than others. There are ranges on the spectrum of autism. And that's why they do call it a spectrum, because you have some where they're so, they're not so far out on the spectrum where you can barely detect that there's any autism. But then you have the folks who are really on the spectrum, to levels of Down syndrome and things like that. And I've seen plenty of times where mothers will have their sons at game stores well into their 30s and 40s buying them video games. And on one hand, I understand as a mother, you want to protect your son. You want him to enjoy life. You want him to continue to enjoy the things that he enjoyed as a child. But I can't help but feel like these men are hamstrung by their mothers or their fathers enabling of them to continue to avoid reality with video games. Because you can tell with a lot of these men that they've never really socially integrated. It's highly unlikely that they've ever had any significant romantic relationships. It's highly unlikely that they have any real large friend groups. And you can tell by the fact that they're spending their day shopping for video games with their mother, who looks like she's who should probably be a grandmother to their children. You can't help but feel like, while yes, it's kind and it's sweet that their mothers want to buy them more video games, it's also enabling their failure to actively launch into society and become productive members of society that do more than just stay at home and play video games. I also fear for these men when I see them with their parents, because I have to think to myself, what's going to happen to this man when his mother is no longer around to buy him video games? How will he cope? How will he deal with life? How will he deal with society? What's then going to be the next step then? And so, you're probably wondering why I kicked this video off talking about video game addiction. And it's because it's something that has come up on my channel. I've had commenters, ask me to talk about video game addiction, hoarding, and consumerism. And I wanted to share the 8 contributing factors that I feel like contribute to video game addiction, so that if you recognize any of these things in your own personal life, it'll probably be easier for you to do like a self-diagnosis, as opposed to, listening to a bunch of opinions. Those are real life factors that I believe contribute to video game addiction, and they can contribute to a lot of types of addiction on multiple levels. Now I want to talk about consumerism and this spending culture that we have. We are in a capitalistic society, and that will never go away. We will be a capitalistic society until the cows come home, proverbially, as they say. And people are going to buy, and people are going to spend, and they're going to buy, and they're going to spend. And when it comes to capitalism, money, the financial system, banks, the Fed, the federal government, monetary policy, when I think about all of that, I mentally see a humongous board game, and you could throw the stock market in there, the bond market, all that, all things financial. When I think about all those things, I think about a board game, and I also think about slavery, to be honest with you, and I'll explain. At the end of the day, if you cannot survive, right? Unless you are slaving away at a job, unless you are doing something to generate income, right? And most of us, I don't want to say all of us, but most of us are slave at least 8 to 10, sometimes 12, sometimes 14 hours a day at a job doing something. Because if we didn't, then we would not be able to keep a roof over our head. We wouldn't be able to eat food. We wouldn't be able to live, survive, the basic necessities. We wouldn't be able to take care of our families. And so we have a financial and stock and job ecosystem that demands, that basically dictates that 95 to 99% of folks in the world, or at least in America, have to work. And a lot of times, and you're hearing this more than ever before, the wages do not seem to keep up with expenses, right? Wages do not keep up with inflation. And before, it didn't feel as much like slaving away, because at least for that 8 hours a day, or for the 9 hours a day, in exchange, you got the ability to live a proverbial dream, which was to own your own piece of property, be able to vacation, a few times a year, maybe once a year, and then eventually retire somewhere where it's sunny and you can kind of relax on a beach somewhere. But unfortunately, today in 2024, that is no longer the case. And because of that, it is feeling more like slaving away than ever before, especially when you feel like the wages that you're getting for what you're doing can barely keep up with what you have to pay just to survive. And so most folks are surviving, right? Most. Now, what I tend to see in the gaming community is that it's typically made up of individuals who have the means to buy the games. I mean, in most cases, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are people that overextend themselves, but most folks in the gaming community, and I'll pat the gaming community on the back, most folks in the gaming community are smart. They're logical. They, and if they're not smart and they're not logical, they have parents that can buy them video games, or family, or someone that's there buying them video games. And, not being able to find a game, or not being able to find a rare game, is most definitely a first world problem, right? So the person who's getting upset that they cannot find a sealed copy of Earthbound, they're not dealing with the same struggle as the person whose car just broke down and they can't find their way to work. And so I think the consumerism aspect of it, the hoarding aspect of it, really only pertains to a small segment of consumers in this gaming space. And it's just the segment of people who have the ability to hoard, to buy, to consume and consume and consume and consume. Now, the commenter left on their page where I think they said that they had a family member or something like that whose life was just basically getting consumed in buying way too many Switch games, and it was affecting his marriage and his kids or something like that. I can't remember the comment in detail, but that is the part that falls back into addiction, right? If you are in a space where, you don't have the means necessarily to buy up these games and do all these things and spend all that money, and it's impacting your relationship, your marriage, your friends, things like that. Now you've fallen into the realm of addiction, and now it's time to take a step back and assess the things that are important and what needs to be at the forefront of your life. And we already talked about that in the beginning of the video, and the 8 contributing factors. And you can look at any one of those 8 factors and say to yourself, okay, do I fall in any one of these buckets? And if I do, what steps do I need to take to reassess, to reevaluate, to recenter and refocus? But consumerism is always going to be there. And there are always going to be people who buy games, buy things, and hang on to them for nostalgia purposes, for whatever reasons, and they'll hang on to them. And then 15, 20 years, when they're ready to let them go, they'll let them go. And if those items have appreciated in value, then they'll reap the benefits. And if they haven't, then they'll probably sell them anyway or give them to someone else, or they'll just go up for auction. But I don't think that there's anything that we can do about consumerism in society today. People are always going to buy what they want to buy, and the market will always dictate prices. And that's the beautiful thing about a free and fair market, is that when there's market competition, the market will always dictate prices. And that's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing things level out, not just in video games either. I mean, just look at the sneaker market. For those of you who pay attention to sneakers right now, like if you look for the last, from basically 2018, 2019, all the way up until about 2022, 2023, almost every sneaker was being sold out, and the only way you could get it was by buying it from a secondhand market or a reseller at 50 times the markup, or 50% the markup, or 100% of a markup. Now today, some of the most revered and iconic sneakers are sitting on shelves, right? And what it's doing is it's causing that reseller market, the prices on the resale market, to actually tank below retail prices. And that's because the market dictates the price. The market, people with their dollars and cents, dictate how much something is worth. It's just like the housing market. I could list my house on the market today for $10 million. And guess what it's going to do? It's going to sit on the market because no one is going to really feel like it's worth $10 million. But if there is someone who feels like it's worth $10 million, they're more than welcome to come and buy it for $10 million, right? But that's not the case. It's going to sell for what people think it's going to sell for. And there's a good and a bad to that. The good for that is for folks who who genuinely care about an item, or using sneakers as a reference. This is good for sneakerheads and people who genuinely care about sneakers in terms of wearing them as opposed to reselling them. This is great for them because now they get a major discount. Same thing with video games. This is great. Video game prices dropping is amazing for gamers because now you can go and buy it. You don't have to pay a reseller. You don't have to worry about all the guys on YouTube that are reselling. You can stop sending them hate videos and just go buy the daggone game and worry about yourself and playing the game. So, it is what it is, man. I think that the consumerism piece of it, people are going to pay what they are willing to pay. I do not believe in being deceitful. I do not believe in trying to price gouge people. I don't think that that's cool. I don't believe in, just doing weird and shady things to get the one up on someone or to get a leg up on someone. I'm not into that. And also that's lame because that's not going to last long either. That's not going to, operating a business that way isn't going to work. Especially if you're trying to build something sustainable that's going to last for a long time. But just getting back to the main topic, consumerism, hoarding, those are things that you're never going to be able to control. People with the means to do so are going to do so until the cows come home. It's never going to stop. Video game addiction, though, is something different. There is a mental health aspect to it. There is an emotional aspect to it. There is a spiritual and relational aspect to it. And I think that it's something that warrants a refocus. So maybe this is a good time of the year for me to put out a video like this, because if you are someone who's in that realm, just take a step back and think. You don't need a doctor. You don't necessarily need, you may not need professional help. You may just need to take a step back, take a deep breath, and okay, what am I doing here? What's going on? What is the purpose? What's the focus? Where am I needed in life? Does my family need me more? Do my friends need me more? Or does my game room need me more? And you can go from there. Well, I'm off my soapbox now. That does it for me. It's the Y2K Collector. This video, again, was made per the request of some of the subscribers of the channel, and hopefully you found some value in it. Exciting news after all that jazz, right? After all of that talking, today's the day that I'm supposed to be getting my 30th anniversary PlayStation 5. So after all that talking about that, guess what? The PS5 30th anniversary is on its way, and I am excited. I am excited that it is gonna be here hopefully today, and then which is great because I was supposed to be doing some traveling here, spending some time with family, so I definitely wanted to make sure it got in before I took off. So if it gets in, maybe I'll make a video on it either today, maybe not today after this video, but maybe tomorrow or the next day. I'll share it with you guys on the channel. But that does it for me. It's the Y2K Collector. Hopefully you all are having a great week, and I will catch you in the next video. Take it easy.